Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for what is another episode of the Arsenal Transfer Show. Join you every morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining me and continuing to make this a part of your morning routines. Good morning, everybody joining us live in the chat box. Let's say we've got this morning Anthony, PJ. We've got Blackshine, Matt G, John. We've got Paul. James, Bran Percy, we've got NSW, Rich, Temi, Ibukan, Colin, Matt, and Troy, and plenty more of you joining us in the chat box as well. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Yesterday's game was a very interesting one, wasn't it? We're going to talk about that and plenty more as well. Before we get into all of that lovely goodness, please do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. It was, as I say, it was so cold last night at the Kassam Stadium. It really, really was. It's an odd ground. For those of you that have watched it, obviously you would have seen that it's kind of got three stands, with the fourth stand not existing and it being open into a car park and then across to a cinema. It's very, very strange. I was so sure that we were going to see some like shots wildly go beyond and into the car park, where I would not have. To be fair, that is the stadium like parking there. No protection from like a ball just going flying and smacking and breaking someone's screen. I was thankfully in the overflow car park around the other side, but it was, bitterly cold. I know, Dave, I am not wearing a coat there. I did put a coat on. I did put a coat on afterwards, but yeah, it was very, very cold indeed. We are going to do a dedicated show to the Oxford win, 6 p.m. UK time tonight. So I'll be joined by some guests to talk about the game in a lot more detail, but kind of giving you my immediate and quick thoughts on the game from my perspective. I think it's obviously clear how big of a difference there is between Arsenal's starting three in midfield and Arsenal's rotating three in midfield. Now, I think that that's harsh on Fabio Vieira, who, if we're being honest, did not have the best of performances. He got 2 assists and did really well to get those assists. But I'm frustrated for Vieira because I feel as though in the teams in which he plays, where there's, Xhaka behind him or Partey behind him, and he's with those better midfielders, he produces more. And when Xhaka came on and when Zinchenko came on, Vieira grew into the game a lot more. First half, though, from pretty much the entire team was pretty dire. Really, really did not seem like we were going to be up for this, playing any of our best football. But the second half, far, far better. Eddie Nketiah again, 2 goals. That's 7 goals in his last 11 starts now for Arsenal. Really good goal return. Very happy with that indeed. I thought Bukayo Saka very quiet, probably the worst of the front three. Gabriel Martinelli as well, didn't have the best game. Vieira, as I say, got his 2 assists, but I think we needed Xhaka, we needed Zinchenko to come on. It added that control, especially when, as soon as Zinchenko came on for Tierney and as soon as Xhaka came on for Lokonga, we won that free kick down the left flank because of the progression from those two. And that obviously led to the opening goal. El Neni, it's just El Neni. He's going to give you a 6 out of 10 every game. You're not going to get much more from El Neni. He scores the odd wonder goal and the odd header now, clearly. But he does what he does. Sambi Lokonga's time at Arsenal is over. And that sounds immediate. It might sound harsh. And I've really tried to be patient, with Lokonga. But these are the games you have to take your chance. You have to take your chance. If you are in a team for a short amount of time, and when you get these opportunities, you can't go missing. You can't be invisible. And Lokonga, unfortunately, was just completely out of the game. And when Xhaka came on, things improved significantly. It probably also added the idea around what we should do in the midfield in this window. I actually asked Arteta after the game about kind of his view of the midfield. I asked him whether or not he was concerned about the gap between the starting midfielders and his rotational midfielders. And he deflected that question, unfortunately. He didn't really want to change that all that much. And I can understand why he would want to do that. And I think that when it comes to an area like midfield, we need to make sure that we are getting enough out of the players that are coming in. And Lokonga wasn't good enough. El Neni isn't going to give you. He's not going to give you, of course, what Partey gives you. And it was frustrating that he deflected it. He said, I mean, they didn't even include the answer in the Arsenal. They didn't even include it in the Arsenal website's thing. I was just actually looking to see if I could find it on the Arsenal website. I'll have to go on to Football London, where I did indeed include it. I said, is there too big of a drop-off from the starting midfielders and the rotational options? He said there were two different moments in the game, and obviously some players have more time on the pitch than others, and there are things that obviously we have to improve, but this is my job. Strange they didn't put it on the Arsenal website. But that's what he said in answer to my question. You can watch the press conference back, of course, on the Arsenal Way. But I also asked him about Man City, or whether or not playing Man City ahead of that game is kind of frustrating because it might give something away because it's so close to the league game. And he said that it is what it is. That happens. You have to play different competitions between teams, and we'll try to prepare that game to win. And obviously, that game will be very different to the league match. We know each other really well. Every team does. And I don't think that will change much. So, yeah, I was frustrated that I didn't get a better answer. I know he's not going to throw his players under the bus, but maybe an admittance that we do need more in midfield was certainly something to see come from that. And we didn't get that. Now, we'll go on to transfers, of course, because I know that's key and what we all want to talk about. But first, it's important to point out that Bukayo Saka was fine. Arteta said he was fine in his post-match press conference despite being brought off. I was fine with the fact we started our front three. I had no problem with us starting that. We have no reason to rest them, because you got 6 days after Newcastle, 6 days until the North London derby. Build up some momentum, build up some form going into that derby. They don't need 2 weeks off. Spurs played a full-strength team against Portsmouth in their 1-0 win. We did the right thing in playing the players that we did up front. Could have done with some more, I think, experience in midfield from starters. But I don't have too many complaints in the end because we won the game. Anyway, going on to transfers. Miguel Azeez is in talks over a potential loan move to Wigan, Kolo Toure's Wigan, that is. Of course, he was recalled from his loan deal in Spain with Ibiza and now has returned and could now go out on loan for a third time in 2 years, this time to Wigan in the Championship. They sit bottom of the table. Kolo Toure's lost his first 4 games in charge. It's a big, big ask to see Miguel Azeez come in and change things there. But let's see how that happens, if indeed it does happen. We'll keep you updated, of course, with loan updates from the Championship. Palmeiras do indeed want to sell Danilo for around 20 to 25 million euros. Now, there were reports yesterday that continued to suggest Arsenal's interest in the Brazilian midfielder has cooled. I wouldn't expect Arsenal really to go in for the player at this stage. They have priorities elsewhere. And in terms of midfield, I think they need to try and sign somebody that gives you more of an immediate impact compared to players that are going to be for the future. But what Nottingham Forest have already had a bid rejected for around £15 million, 80 million euros. Palmeiras, though, want 20 to 25 million euros to get the deal done, but Arsenal unlikely to move for the Brazilian. Now, our big main 2 stories of the day to discuss, of course, is that Joao Felix is closing on a move to not Arsenal, not Manchester United, but Chelsea. As Arsenal I've put there, have they dodged a bullet? I'm not sure. We will have to wait and find out. However, of course, yesterday we did our breakdown of Joao Felix just hours before the news broke regarding the agreement between Atletico Madrid and Chelsea. In that video, and I'll tell you what, I read through the comments because I was just like, after I got home last night, and I got home about 1 o'clock because I didn't really have time because I put the video out. I left home about 3. We did the video at 11, and the news, I think, came out around 4-ish. So I didn't really get to see any of the reaction to the video because I was traveling, and then I was at the game, and then I was driving home. And the amount of comments that was like, this aged well, and not going to watch this now because Chelsea are going to get him. And when I got to the grounds, I'd obviously seen the news by that point, so I changed the title of the video because obviously I created the video, so I know exactly what's in it. And what you'll see if you watch it is an explanation from our expert and Spanish football journalist, Alvaro Romeo, who actually talks a lot about why a loan move for Arsenal isn't the right choice. It isn't smart for Arsenal to do a loan move for 6 months. And so I changed the title of the video to why Arsenal shouldn't have signed Joao Felix on loan, because the whole video culminates in the idea that actually signing him on loan is not the right idea. Now, to give you some insight around this supposed move to Chelsea, Joao Felix will sign an extension of his contract with Atletico Madrid to 2027 before he then moves to Chelsea on a deal that is set to be around 11 million euros of a loan fee, so around 9 million pounds-ish, plus Chelsea then shouldering all of the players' wages. Okay, now this is said to be below what Atleti were originally asking for. You're still looking at around, I think, 16 million euros. So they got about 5 or so million euros off of the Joao Felix deal. Now, I would, if you've not watched it, go back and watch the breakdown. Go back and listen to Alvaro's thoughts, and he explains why a loan move for Joao Felix is probably not the best idea, especially in the format that what Chelsea have supposedly agreed to that deal. In short, to give you a little bit of a breakdown as to why I'm not now, my view on Felix before the breakdown was, I think, it's a bit of a win-win situation, isn't it, with Joao Felix on loan? You're signing him, you're not having to commit anything in the long term to this player. He adds something in our forward line that's going to improve us in the attack. That was kind of where my head was at before I did that breakdown. And then after the breakdown, my view on Joao Felix had changed, because it became very clear and very apparent, and thanks to Alvaro for the explanation of someone who's watched him plenty more than I have, knows plenty more about Atletico's system and stuff that I do and what he's been playing in, is that simply in 6 months, Joao Felix is not going to give you the impact that we're looking for. He has to adapt to the league. He has to adapt to a new system. He has to adapt to playing in a position he's probably not played in much, if at all. You're paying him a hell of a lot of money, and he doesn't start for us right now. So he doesn't even have the opportunity to adapt to Arsenal at this moment in time. And the explanation that was coming from Alvaro was really eye-opening. And so, as I say, if you've not yet watched the breakdown and you're thinking, well, I'm not going to watch it because he's not signing for us, I'd encourage you to go back and watch it, because it might just make you, A, feel better about the fact we're not getting him, and B, maybe make you feel even better that it's Chelsea that are getting him instead. So I really would encourage you to go and watch that video. It's not just me going, go and watch my video, please. I need you to go watch it. It's not just because of that, but also it is mainly because I really want you to have the ability to have the expert insight to know what the right position to have on the player, and a 6-month loan deal with no option or no obligation involved in it. So there you go. Now, the headline story of the day and the other big news that broke last night is that, according to a number of outlets, including Sport Arena in Ukraine, which are one of the outlets that have been reporting very closely to this story throughout, and as well as we've also got from Foot Mercato, as Santi Auna, the French journalist, also reporting on this story, that Arsenal apparently are close to agreeing on the full amount of money that will be paid to Shakhtar Donetsk for Mykhaylo Mudryk. However, the structure of that deal is still being discussed. So while Shakhtar and Arsenal are much closer to the kind of the overall valuation of the player, the structure of how that will then go about and how much is going to be in bonuses, how much is going to be guaranteed, the structure of those guarantees, that is all still being talked about. And this, I think, gives you a great insight and probably an answer to some of the questions of how come Liverpool been able to get Gakpo so easily and so quickly? How come Chelsea have just swooped in for Joao Felix and got this deal done? Why are Arsenal being so slow with Mudryk? Well, this is exactly the reason as to why. It's because a massive contract, a massive deal as this is, working out the structure, negotiating the right structure of the price, negotiating the right structure of the bonuses, and agreeing on that with a team like Shakhtar is proving very difficult. It's not Arsenal penny pinching. It's Arsenal trying to get a deal done for a reasonable structure and figures. It might be that the overall figure surprises us. It might be now that overall figure takes Mudryk potentially past Nicolas Pepe in terms of what he costs. It could do. Arsenal will be hoping to make sure the guaranteed payments are lower than that of Nicolas Pepe's transfer, but that the bonuses are, both fair, and also if they get to the highest kind of level, it's because he achieves the highest kind of achievements with the club. But this is the most positive news we've got. Of course, Chelsea were the other main team involved in this race, them getting Joao Felix and also being interested in Noni Madueke from PSV. Means that they are probably out of this now. And I imagine that Arsenal have got a little bit closer to agreeing this, not just because, of course, Chelsea have moved elsewhere, but I think the reason why Chelsea have probably pivoted towards Joao Felix is because they've been basically given the message from Mudryk's camp that he doesn't want to go there. He doesn't want to go to Chelsea. He wants to go to Arsenal. And because of that, Chelsea have completely backed out of this one, it seems now, and are moving for other targets. Hopefully, we can get some great news on this deal in the coming days. Hopefully, Arsenal can close that agreement and get the full amount agreed. And hopefully, as well, we can work out a structure that benefits us to the best of our abilities. That's what we hope. Whether or not that happens is another thing. However, what you can hope for in life is security. And security can be brought about online by using NordVPN. NordVPN is a fantastic VPN service which keeps you safe whilst you surf the internet, of course, watching whatever you would like to watch and whatever you would like to use whilst you're online. And of course, it also enables you to change your geolocation. So if you happen to be elsewhere in the world for any amount of time and you want to change where you are because you want to watch something that's only available in another country, you can do that with NordVPN. Just go to nordvpn.com/Gooner. It gives you a 30-day money-back guarantee as well if you're not happy with that service. And yes, the transitions are back. Nord very thankfully and very kindly are going to be with us for the next couple of weeks once again as they help sponsor the channel because you guys have been loving this, loving the transitions, loving the support from NordVPN, something that I'm sure will help you. And as I say, if you're not happy with the service, then what you can do is get that 30-day money-back guarantee as well. So that's nordvpn.com/Gooner. And not only that, but of course, you can get involved with our latest football prizes competition. 2 goals last night for the Arsenal, 7 goals in 11 starts for Eddie Nketiah this season. A link to the competition is down in the description. This competition ends tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Only 31 tickets have been sold so far. You've got a great chance of winning this one if you want to get involved. Link, as I say, is down in the description. Okay, let's move to your questions and more in part 2 right after this. Okay, let's go to part 2. Yes, you're going to have to put up with me coming up with more inventive ways to create this transition as well. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be in the world. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's an absolute pleasure to see you joining us in our live chat box. As always, we're going to tackle as many of your questions as we can. Penny Ween says, now that Felix has gone to Chelsea, should we instead move for Squirtle from the joke? Oh, this is obviously a callback for those that don't know. Why are we talking about Squirtle in the chat box? Well, one of our listeners decided to have a Bulbasaur picture as that, and we got very fixated on it the other day. But yes, absolutely, we should be looking to sign Squirtle for our midfield. Clearly, PD Ween, obviously. Goodness me, those that have no idea what Pokemon is going to be listening to this on audio or playback and thinking, what on earth have I tuned into? Tom says, the Felix breakdown was interesting. However, we still must bring someone else aside Mudryk as our squad is too small/frail to maintain a title challenge. Who is then the question? It's a good question, and it's a worthy question because I agree with it. I think Mudryk isn't enough. I think we do need to add someone. I think if we add someone, they have to be someone who can play in that 9 role. Joao Felix, I don't think was that guy. And I think we've heard from Alvaro, of course, in our breakdown that Joao Felix is not that number 9 that was going to be playing in place of Jesus, playing in place of Eddie Nketiah. And we need to find someone who is more of that central figure if we're going to bring someone in. Now, the obvious candidate who could be available on the cheap is Memphis Depay. I know he's not going to excite you. I know he's not going to be like, oh, people are going, what, really, Memphis Depay? But actually, the fact of the matter is that better than, not bringing anyone in, he would provide the depth that we need for 6 months. And I would offer it on a 6-month deal and no more. I don't want to see an 18-month or a longer contract. But if it's on a 6-month deal for Memphis Depay, get his stock a bit higher so we can move somewhere in the summer, I think it's a good move for Arsenal to do, potentially. And as a backup option, depth option. Elsewhere, Chelsea said to be looking at Marcus Thuram. Is he the right player to go for? Maybe on a free. I have my reservations about whether or not on the long term he's the right choice for us, or whether he's the right stylistically the right choice for us. But the fact of the matter is there is just not the options. There is just not the options really out there right now, and we need to have a look, and maybe we'll actually produce a show on some of the forwards that we could go to. I watched Tifo Football's Sensible Transfers video. They suggested Roberto Firmino as an option, and I could not see that one happening. I don't know how to be honest, they came to that conclusion that would be the best option. Why Liverpool would let him go to us, I have no idea. And age profile wise, he's just not the right one for us. Anyway, Dan says, Tom, do you think we'll move to another attacker if we complete Mudryk? I hope so. I'm hopeful and optimistic that we would, because we were interested in Felix. We were interested in bringing in another forward. So there is enough time in the window to move for somebody else as well. Derek says, Tom, do you think that we are identifying another potential striker? And will Mudryk be available for the North London derby, or when does he need to be confirmed? I think it needs to be confirmed the day before the first fixture of that game week. I don't know if that's Friday. Let's have a quick check on the Premier League fixtures. So the Premier League fixtures, the next game is indeed on Friday. So I think we would have to have him registered by Thursday if we want to play him. I don't see that happening. I think Manchester United is more likely the following week. And by the way, very interestingly, I should have mentioned this, before we play Manchester United on the Sunday 22nd, Crystal Palace will host Man United. That rearranged fixture has now been put before that game. So Man United will play on the 18th. They'll have the 19th and the 20th, I imagine, to recover. They'll train on the 21st, and then they'll come back and play Arsenal on the 22nd. So they have a midweek fixture now between their game against us. It's away from home, of course, again in London. So they have to go to London, come back, go back to London to play us. So that's a good bit of news for Arsenal. And I think apparently, didn't the Premier League apologise to Man United for that? I'd love an apology from the Premier League, to be honest, about certain things in this league. Sam says, Tom, how tired are you? And will you be passing out into bed after this? No, I'm going to go to work after this. I've got a full shift to do today as well after this. As you can probably tell, I look pretty darn tired. You know, as I say, I came back at got in about just after 1 in the morning. I thought it was going to be closer to 2. I managed to get back. I managed to leave at around 11, get everything submitted and sorted in time. And I was back around 1. But yeah, I was up this morning about 6:30, 7, making the show for you this morning. So if you could drop a like, I'd really appreciate that. So thank you so much for the kind words in the chat box. Really appreciate them. King Lucci says, what are your thoughts on Onana? We were linked with him in the summer, and I was fuming that we didn't sign him. I think he's got similar traits to Partey and would be a perfect competitive option. Well, he's gone to Everton, so I don't see them selling him. They signed him for a really high, to be honest, amount of money, around £30+ million, I think it was. So he was a good player. You know, he was playing really well before that move, and at Lille, I think it was. And Everton have got a player that probably is playing in a really poor team that maybe in a better side would be coming good. But that Everton team is dreadful. Very, very, very poor. JDB says, Tom, I'm glad we're not after these short-term disasters like Weghorst and Felix for the fee, not his ability. 8 out of 10 times it doesn't work. Give me Mudryk and Danilo and Tielemans for reasonable fees. And now that interest in Tielemans has certainly dipped in that amount of time. Effie says, Tom, would you take Vlahovic in the summer? I don't think so. I think I'd move for a different style of forward. I think we need the style of forward that we've got in Jesus. I think we need to move for that. Vlahovic, yes, could do things on his own, can score goals. I'm just not sure that's the right profile of striker that we should be looking for. And I don't really like the guy, to be honest. After everything that happened in the January of last year, not that keen on the situation. A lot of suggestions going on in the chat box. Gavin says Morata for 6 months. Football Focus says Tammy Abraham. Vincent Abubakar says Jonathan, although that has a crying, laughing face next to it. Ferran Torres, of course, is not a bad shout, and maybe we'll see Arsenal going for Ferran Torres. He's someone that Arteta, I know, likes a lot from his time at Manchester City, and he has always been on the radar. And Nabil says that we should recall Balogun now. Is that the right thing to do? If Arsenal can't find a striker during this window, should we recall Balogun, or should we continue to let him develop whilst he plays week in, week out in France with Reims? So maybe that's the right way to go about things. We'll have to wait and see. Dave says that we do maybe need a Firmino type, and that's where I do agree. And stylistically, Firmino is very close to what we need, but he's not the player. But certainly the style, that's the style of player that we should really be looking at. Effie says, Tom, do you rate Moukoko, the Borussia Dortmund and German international? Yes, very exciting young player. I think Germany's youngest ever international. Yes, I do rate him. And he's free, apparently, in the summer. Still struggling to agree a brand new contract. Is that the right person to go for? Not sure. Is it going to not block the pathway, but is it going to conflict with someone like Balogun? Is that the right profile of forward as well that we should be looking to bring in? Tricky. We'll have to wait and see if he's a player that gets on Arsenal's radar anytime soon. Michael says we should get Wout Weghorst just to annoy Manchester United. As a plan B option, just coming off the bench, it wouldn't be terrible, but I don't think he's the right guy. Again, only would be a plan B. It wouldn't be a rotational option or someone who could be a backup for us as well. There's a lot of you saying that we should recall Balogun. There's a lot of you in the chat box saying that we should do that. I'm actually curious to kind of get a poll going maybe as well in the chat. Let's do that. Let's add a poll. Would start a poll. Would, if Arsenal can't sign a striker, let's retype that. I can't type this one. Sign a striker this window, brackets, but we do get Mudryk. Would you sign, would you recall Balogun? There you go. There's a poll in the chat. I nearly spelt window wrong. There you go. Get voting on that poll. We'll revisit that at the end of the show and see what you guys are saying. Let's go to Gabenga says, why have we suddenly abandoned the signing of a defensive midfielder? I will be gutted if we miss out on Danilo like we did with Guimaraes. Guimaraes is not a defensive midfielder, first of all, but I understand that you would be annoyed. Danilo is, to be honest, not necessarily either a 6 either. So Danilo is just not going to give you what we need in these 6 months. We need someone who's going to bring in competition, more quality than we've already got. Danilo doesn't start for us. He doesn't even start for us, I think, over El Neni at the moment. So that's kind of the issue that we've got in January is we need to bring in someone that's going to start for us if Partey's not there. And I don't think Danilo does right now. Could he in the future? Absolutely. But we need someone right now to bring us an option. Sam Lowe, thank you for the donation. Buy yourself a coffee and push through. Thanks, mate. I really appreciate that. I think I might have missed a super chat from really early on in the show as well, which I'm going to feel awful about if I can't find it. Here it is. 403MC2. Thank you for your kind donation earlier on in the show. Lokonga needs a loan spell in France. He's not going to improve with the minutes he gets. Mudryk and a centre forward and a fit Jesus equals 3 back people coming back. Also, Smith Rowe is a false 9 potentially. On Lokonga, I agree with you. I would send him on loan next season. I wouldn't sell him in the summer because I don't think he'd have the value in the summer. Send him on loan, get him playing regularly. But yes, we need to make sure that we strengthen in those areas that you have suggested. Indeed. Thank you again for the donation. Unpopular opinion, says Matt G, says, but I would recall Balogun. I know the argument is it may disrupt his development rather, but honestly, I don't care. We are pushing for a title. I have a quick look at the poll. Let's see how many have voted. 266 of you have already voted on this. 61% of you say no. 39 say yes. That is, to be honest, Matt, when you said it was an unpopular opinion, I didn't think it would be, but apparently it still very much is. Tom says Martin Terrier from Rennes would be a great option, but he's done his ACL, so that ship has sailed. Wouldn't mind bringing back Balogun for safety if we don't find anyone at least. It will be interesting to see if the club consider, recalling Balogun. I just can't see them doing it, but maybe they will with how kind of informed he's been and how short we are for options right now. I mean, we're using Nathan Butler Oyedeji on the bench, and he's been on the bench for a number of games because Keon Edwards is injured right now. It's our kind of, if you like, third natural striking option who plays in the youth team. He's injured at the moment. So Butler Oyedeji is the only option that we've really got. You've got Charles Sago Jr., of course, but he didn't even get on the pitch when we went to Dubai. He was on the bench, but did not get in the team, in off the bench at all. Whether or not Arteta doesn't trust him yet or wants to use him enough yet, I don't know, but he didn't get a chance whatsoever. Jean says, I voted no on Balogun because I think it's the best thing for his development and the best for our long-term planning. What if a Balogun goal in the last game of the season wins you the title? I know it's completely hypothetical and stupid, but imagine if that's what it was. Sean says, Lokonga had a great pre-season. Where did it go wrong? Lack of minutes, lack of confidence. I think he's really down. Remember the All or Nothing episode where he does that thing where he talks about saying, I'm not playing, I'm getting annoyed. And Nketiah kind of puts him in his place about it, really. I think he works off confidence. I think he's worked off playing regularly for Anderlecht. It's just not happened because he's not played enough. He needs to go on loan. If we signed a midfielder or two in this window, I'd be open to sending him on loan now because I don't know what he's offering us. And at the start of the window, I was really against the idea of sending Lokonga on loan now because I thought we needed the depth. But I don't know what he's offering us. I'd recall Patino. I genuinely consider recalling Charlie Patino at this stage. He's done brilliantly in Blackpool, but we need that midfield. And if we can't sign a midfielder during this window, I'd recall Patino. And in every game we play, I'd sub him on in the last 20 minutes of games, gradually build up those minutes for him, get him involved, get him playing regularly in the senior side, because I tell you what, this kid's got it. This kid is special. You watch him playing. If you've had the chance to watch him play this season, it's a pleasure to be able to do so. It's not a chaotic shout. It is really not a chaotic shout to think about recalling him because I think he would offer us more than what Lokonga offers us at the moment. Esmond says, I do not know why people hate on Lokonga. The guy needs minutes. Do we not remember how many times our first team players did horrible mistakes? Fans need to let it go. He's underrated. He needs the minutes. Esmond. I'm struggling not to bring up the fact that you wanted us to get rid of Saka in this, because how one could want and be open to letting Saka go and then saying we should keep Lokonga, I can't get my head around the thought process. It's actually hurting my brain a little bit. When Lokonga has played, he had one good game this season, which was against Aston Villa. Against Manchester United, he did okay, but he made mistakes which cost us goals. And in every performance since then, none have stuck in my mind as being good, and he's not stuck in my mind as doing anything significant. He's got chances in the Europa League. He's got a chance now in the FA Cup, and he has been invisible. He's been invisible. So I can't get my head around why Lokonga would be kept. I get the idea of he needs minutes, he needs to play regularly. I get that. But when you come into the team, you have to take your chances. You have to take your chances. And because of that, unfortunately, it's just not going to work at the moment if he's going to play like he did yesterday, which was next to invisible, just was not present in the game. His presence was just not there. So that is a real frustration for me regarding Lokonga. Is he needs to give something in these games. He has to give something. Let's go to Manu says, I'm disgusted with these comments about Lokonga. Absolutely disappointing. Manu, I think, was it Manu? Did you tweet me saying, is it make or break for Lokonga? Was it you that said it was make or break for Lokonga against Oxford? I think it might be. I think it might have been make or break potentially for this season. But if he comes in and plays, I want him to succeed. I want him to do well, because it means if he does well, it means Arsenal do well. But at the moment, it's really hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel for Lokonga right now. Really, really hard to see that. Really difficult. Tab says he needs minutes elsewhere. Unfortunately for us, I rate him, but his head doesn't seem to have it right now. And that's the key thing, is that if he doesn't get minutes, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a big problem for us. I'm curious as to what he did in yesterday's game. I'm going to have a quick look on Wirescout. They might not have the stats up yet from yesterday's game, but I'm going to have a quick look. Whilst that's loading, let me read out some more comments. Timmy says, Tom, Depay is hardly a sensible transfer. Arteta would yell at him for not pressing and not doing the non-negotiables. Ferran Torres is a good shout. For me, obviously, if it's between the two, I'd much prefer Ferran Torres to Memphis Depay. I like Ferran Torres. I think his versatility is good. I think he can play in the middle. He can play in the wide areas. His versatility is much better and much more specific for Arsenal than what it necessarily was for Depay. I think it's for Joao Felix. Because Joao Felix, for instance, didn't fit the holes that we had available to us, and that's That's not good enough, unfortunately. I'm trying to find the statistics for Lokonga on Wyscout to see if it's going to be working or be good enough. So, yes, we do have them. He played 28 passes in the game, making 25, 89% pass accuracy. 7 of those passes of the 28 were forwards, of which he completed 5 of them. 4 were into the final third. 8 of them were backwards as well. So he played more backward passes than forward passes during the game. Just the one more, but still, you want to see that. For a number 8 in the position that he is, you need to see him doing more. Let me have a quick look at Granit Xhaka's statistics from yesterday when he came off the bench. So I'm curious about that. Again, whilst this loads, I'll continue to take some of your questions. It takes some time, this, because my internet, whilst I'm trying to stream, does suffer significantly whilst I'm trying to search stuff up at the same time. It's like a revolving circle continuously. Let's take another question whilst I find that. Let's go to Manu says, I appreciate that you're trying to keep constructive, but these no talent and mentality weak type of comments disgust me. Yeah, that's probably harsh. You know, Lokonga has talent. If you watched him at Anderlecht, you could clearly see the talent this kid possessed. The thing is, he's young and he's a confidence player. He's a confidence player. And if he's not being given the minutes, he's not being given the time, he's not being given the opportunity, he's not going to get that confidence back up. But at the same time, when he is given the minutes, however few, he has to take those chances. So a loan is the right option for Lokonga. I wouldn't sell him in the summer. I'd send him on loan, see how it gets on. Because, you know, for a lot of people, they would have, you know, look at Nuno Tavares. I think a lot of people would have sold Nuno Tavares in the summer. And actually, if we'd have sold him in the summer, we probably would have got a bit more than what we paid for him, maybe 12 to 15 million pounds if we're lucky. If we sell Tavares now next summer, you're looking at 20 to 25. I think is probably a fairer estimation of Nuno Tavares now if you were going to sell him to an Atalanta or somewhere like that. So it's important that you give players chances to play regularly elsewhere before you make any kind of rash decisions on what you want to do. So let's have a quick look. It's not coming up. That's really annoying. It's not coming up for some reason. I don't know why. That's really frustrating. But what I think you can tell when Xhaka came on was that he was just so much more. We just produced so much more when he came off the bench. I think he had something like 100% passing accuracy. I saw someone tweet yesterday. He missed out one pass. So he played 15 passes in the game and missed just one of them throughout the entire game. So, and that's what you want. That's what you need to see from that. It's, yeah, Dave, the right word is presence. You could feel Xhaka's presence as soon as he was on the field, and the difference between the two was just completely night and day. Prince Tutu says, Tom, don't you think by now people should recognise the type of player Arteta likes and would fit in this system? The players many of us are mentioning don't even move the needle in Arteta's system. It's a good point, you know, and I think that in January, the problem is, Prince Tutu, that we have is that we get a bit desperate. We get a bit desperate regarding players. We get a bit desperate for options. And it gets to the final week or two at the window, and you're sitting there and going, we need to sign someone. Just sign someone. Now, it's always important to make sure that you bring in the right players, because sometimes bringing in the wrong players can have an even more detrimental impact on your squad. However, I think sometimes you have to make some compromises, especially during the winter window in particular. And that's why I don't think Memphis Depay is a utter no. And I get what people say about pressure, and I get what people say about the energy and the running. Now, I don't think Arteta would necessarily fully commit, of course, without speaking with the player. And he would have his demands and he would have his questions for the player before he ever goes to sign them. But yeah, I think it's important to remember that we have to put some faith in the people that are making the decisions and the people that are looking to sign the players, because it is them that have got us where we are. It is them that have constructed this squad. It is them that have given us that hope and belief to put us back where we are. So whilst there's still complaints that we're not being aggressive enough, not being quick enough in the window, and I get that, but I understand that the deal we're trying to do with Mudryk in particular, very, very complex and complicated and tricky because of how Shakhtar are being. But we need to make sure that we, I think, have that faith that they're going to do this. You've heard Arteta say it in the summer. He wants more firepower. You heard Arteta say it this window. We have a small squad. We cannot afford to waste any transfer windows. I think we can all agree that we did waste last January. There may not have been the clear options then, but we cannot afford to waste this window. Arteta doesn't want to waste it. Edu doesn't want to waste it. We want to strengthen. We want to take this opportunity. And if we're able to do that during this window, who knows what we're capable of this season. But 10 days into the window, a third of the way through the window, we're hopefully getting closer to bringing in a really special player. Fingers crossed. I'm not going to lose it. I'm not going to start throwing in comments into comment sections of YouTube videos going, this isn't good enough. Edu needs to be sacked. And yes, there are genuinely people out there that still think Edu should be sacked because we've not signed anyone by the 10th of January, despite the fact that we're trying to do one of the most complicated deals, arguably the continent's seen with this Mudryk move right now. I know. Nabil in here says, is Edu sleeping on the job? Which I'm assuming is satirical. But there are people out there that still think Edu should be sacked by this point because we've not signed anyone. Screw the head on a little bit tighter. Get real about the situation and understand what we're trying to do and understand that the work done by Edu and done by Arteta has got us 5 points clear at the top come this time this year. And that is the important thing to focus on. It's because of the recruitment and the players we brought in, the players we've moved on, the decisions that have been made in the transfer windows leading up to this point under these people has got us here. So let's have a bit more faith. So a bit more teeny-weeny bit of patience. And let's keep those fingers crossed that we can do something special during this window. I will continue to bring the updates, of course, as always. As I said earlier on the show tonight, we will be doing a dedicated show looking straight into the game last night in a lot more detail. I'll be joined by some guests to break down that game against Oxford. We'll talk, of course, more about transfers. We'll talk more about Joao Felix's move to Chelsea. We'll talk more about Mudryk and the situation. Of course, any extra news that comes out during the day, we will be discussing. Other than that, I will see you once again tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. to round up all of the latest Arsenal news. Please drop a like on the video. It has taken me incredible amounts of willpower to get my head off the pillow today after getting home so late after the game yesterday to put this all together. So please drop a like. Please, if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe. There's over 1,700 of you watching, which we're closing in on a channel record. If we ever got to 2,000 live viewers in a show, that would be incredible. So thank you for making us a part of your morning routines. Thank you for always tuning in and joining us. And thank you for listening. And thank you for your comments as well. As I said earlier, if you're really a bit down about the Joao Felix deal not happening, go watch our tactical breakdown yesterday. I think it'll make you feel better about the fact that we didn't get him. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you again a little bit later on today. And of course, as always, up the Arsenal.